السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. 46.5 million people in this country live in a state of poverty. That's about 15% of Americans. And just so we understand what poverty means in this country, that means a family of 3 lives on less than $18,000 a year. Now, when I was growing up, anytime someone would mention that in America or in the US or Americans, I was always taught to be like, oh, well, those are other people. But there's a reality we need to understand. We are part of that statistic. We are Muslims, we are Americans. And that means there are a number of poor Muslims all over our communities. And many of those people are indigenous, many of them are immigrants. But I want to ask a fundamental question to all of us as we go through our lives. Do we take this issue of poverty in the Muslim community as not only a religious cause, but a civil cause and a moral cause? I personally believe that Muslims, and I think as many speakers have mentioned, are very, very philanthropic. We give a lot of money every single weekend. There's an Islamic relief fundraiser, or another organization, or MLF. There's so many organizations that do good work. But it is my belief that we have failed to systematically address this issue. And it's important for us to understand that we have an institution in Islam that is an organized, systematic method of poverty alleviation, and that is Zakat. It's one of many institutions or vehicles that are used to alleviate poverty. But Zakat has become something which is very chaotic in our communities. And I want to discuss it. Are we truly living and implementing the prophetic model of Zakat? There is a statement by Abu Darda, radiallahu anhu, a great Sahabi, who remarked to the Tabi'een, just a group of people who lived the next generation after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said to them in a state of anger, he said that if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to be resurrected and alive today, he would not recognize all the acts that he used to perform, him and his companions, except for your salah. Just imagine that less than 50 years after his death, alayhi salatu wasalam, the Sahabi told the people, the Prophet would be clueless as to what you were doing. It would be a foreign religion almost. So another scholar remarked about 200 years later, he goes, think about what Abu Darda said. What about today? Now I want to say that today, over 1,000 years after he said that, if the Prophet ﷺ was here today, and he observed how Muslims in Southern California deal with zakat and poverty alleviation, would he see this as a prophetic model? Or would he be confused? Would he say, what are these people doing? I personally researched this issue for more than 3 years, and I hope to do it for many more. I can say with confidence that the Prophet ﷺ would say, what is going on? This is not something which was known during our time. So what I'm going to get into is actually very controversial, and I want to start by echoing the words of Imam al-Shatibi, a great scholar from Spain. When he had this internal conflict, he saw all these actions in the community that were kind of contrary to what Islam says, or very contrary, yet it was a dominant status quo. So he said to himself, I have a choice. Should I speak up and promote the sunnah, or should I stay silent and just kind of go along with the status quo? Because if I follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and speak out against it, I may lose many relationships and friendships. I may lose status in my community. And if I stay silent, then everyone's going to love me, everyone is going to respect me, and I'll maintain my status. He said, I find that in following the sunnah, if it leads me to my death and destruction, is my path to success. And if I choose to just go along with the flow, those people who I please will not avail me on the day of judgment. I'm saying that because what I'm going to say is going to put me in hot water. As Muslims in America, we deal with zakat in one of 2 ways. The number one way is the majority of our money, it goes overseas. There is fundraisers all the time. Syria, Palestine, Pakistan, Egypt, Somalia, you name it. There are too many causes where the Muslims are suffering. But the prophetic model is as such. The Prophet ﷺ, he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen. And he told them, amongst the affairs to tell them to do, he goes, that Allah has ordained upon the rich that they have to give from their wealth and it should be returned to their poor. Again, pay attention to my words. Take from their rich, the rich people of Yemen, and give it to the poor people of Yemen. Mu'adhi understood this. When he was appointed by Umar ibn Khattab to continue collecting the zakat, the Muslim welfare system, he sent back 1/3 of the proceeds to Umar ibn Khattab, who was a Khalifa. Umar was angry. He said, "What is this? I didn't send you as a tax collector. I sent you to take the money from the rich and give it back to their poor." And Mu'adhi said that I wouldn't give even $1 of it back to you if there was someone who needed it in Yemen. Poverty was eradicated in Yemen because the institution was living. Another Sahabi, Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu anh, he went through the same process. He was appointed to collect the zakat. He was asked by his superiors, "Where is the zakat you have collected?" He goes, "What are you talking about? We collected it and distributed it the way the Prophet ﷺ did," meaning it's all gone in the community we got it from. Yet again today, I'm asking this question, that how much of our money goes to our local Muslims who are struggling? We don't need to see videos of poor people starving and dying in Somalia and Syria and Palestine to see poverty in the Muslim community. You can drive down the street to LA or Orange County in many different pockets. Yet somehow there's this belief that it's more authentic, that if we give it to those who are elsewhere. Surprisingly, after my research, I found that almost every single madhab and scholar in history said local zakat is not only is obligatory according to some, but highly preferable according to others. The Hanbali school said you cannot give zakat to a community farther than what would make you a traveler. That means that zakat is supposed to be used in our community where it's generated. The city where you live and the city where you work, you're supposed to give zakat back to those people to alleviate the poverty in that community. Zakat has eradicated poverty historically, but only when it's implemented properly. That's the first way that we use it. The second way we use it, this is where I'm going to get in trouble. That we use zakat today for many of our own organizations that do so much great work. We use it for political advocacy. We use it for lobbying politicians. We use it for general outreach. We use it for interfaith dawah. We use it for general Muslim dawah. We use it to subsidize private Islamic education, to put up Islamic schools, to build and maintain masajid. Now a question. Do we really believe, do you believe, despite the fact that fatwa are there? The fatwa are there, you can go online, you can find whatever you want. Sheikh, Google will give you what you want. You'll find it. That zakat can be given here, there, it doesn't make a difference. Do you truly believe, after understanding that zakat, as the Prophet said in the hadith, take from their rich and give it to their poor, was primarily meant to be used to fund political advocacy, to fund private Islamic education because we want our kids to go to the best Islamic schools? Was it to be used to build masajid? Was it to be used for all these other great noble causes? But is that what zakat was all about? I couldn't fathom that. I really could not. And I could not find anything in the sources of Islam other than the guise that is often used, that إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ, in the whole ayah, فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Question now. The cause of Allah can be everything under the sun. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really wanted zakat to go to all these other things as primary sources, why do you say zakat should go to poor and the needy and the one who has debt and the one who's traveling and he has no money? He could have said zakat is fi sabilillah. Give it to whatever you want. But there was a priority, and that was poverty alleviation. And only after the poverty was alleviated was it used for many of these other things, or it was done under the leadership of a state that understood a systematic need to address certain different elements of society. So think about the organizations that actually currently use our zakat. Think about them. I will name some of them. Some of them deserve it in some parts of their work, some of them don't deserve it. But this is meant to stimulate discussion. Political advocacy, social justice, dawah, CARE, MPAC, Shura Council, private schools, AMJA, all these organizations all do great work. But do you think they deserve your dollars over the poor? That is a question I'll leave for you guys to think about. And inshallah, we'll have a talk about it another day. But I really hope that we can live in a way where we can honestly state that if the Prophet ﷺ came back today, he would say, this is a zakat institution that I left. And that is my hope, and I hope we can discuss it in the future. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.